Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great start to your week whenever you may be watching this, whether that's Monday or if you saved it for a midweek treat. Good for you. But thank you for joining us. It's another week to motivate you and maximize your week ahead. As you can see, we have a new guest here. Kendall was gracious enough to join me this week, a recently transitioned educator, which I've been reaching out to recently because there seems to be a lot of interest in new fields for educators. So wanting to get some insight from everyone in terms of how they did their transition, what works for them, and everything like that. So before we get to Kendall, we're going to break down both our weeks ahead. So for me, the three things motivating me this week ahead, we had a taste of like the start of college football, but this weekend the actual start begins. So as you can see, I will probably be miserable by next week when Notre Dame loses to Ohio State. But for now, happy, excited, college football's back. I can't wait. So that's one of the main motivators for me. The next one is this coming weekend. We are doing a Labor Day trip to the beach to visit my family. So a nice long weekend getaway is always nice. I haven't seen them in a few weeks now. They bounce back and forth between their beach house and down to Florida. So when they are in the area, try to get down to the beach as often as we can, just to get the little one acclimated to beach life moving forward too. And then the final motivator is just that September is here. I'm not one to necessarily like hate summer, but this summer it really felt like it dragged, and so I'm more of a fall person. Cooler weather, sitting out back, and not getting like torn up by mosquitoes and whatnot is more of my thing. So now that we have cooler weather, hopefully on the horizon here, the start of September at least is usually the indicator of that. So excited to have that coming up close here. So in terms of my work week and what I want to get accomplished, goals for the week ahead, I mentioned last week that I was going through different job boards, job postings that we have up and doing some cleanup, and I'm still focusing on that, making that kind of the bulk of my week ahead is just kind of going through the job postings we have up, giving them some TLC. If we have anything that needs to be updated, making sure that that is all up to date, just so everything is kind of in line as we continue to move forward and fill positions. And then the other thing is just packing my schedule with as many interviews as I can for the week. Last week there was kind of up and down fluctuation. It's usually Mondays and Fridays are my busiest, and last week it was the exact opposite. Monday and Friday were a little bit more bare for me, and then Tuesday through Thursday were just absolutely packed. So I'm just looking to spread that out a little bit so I can kind of turn my attention to other things throughout the day as well, and not just be nonstop interviews all day. As much as I love speaking to candidates, sometimes I do need a break to do some sourcing and follow-ups and whatnot as well. And then the win from the week before is just another offer extended. So always nice to get those out on Fridays. It's a good thing for the hiring managers, for the candidates. It's nice to give good news on a Friday. So that was kind of the good way to end the week. So that's it for me for the week. Kendall, what do you have on the horizon for yourself moving forward?
All right. So the three things that are motivating me for the week ahead. First of all, I'm in Kansas and it has been hot here as well. I know you talked about how you're excited for it to be September, and we actually have some rain in the forecast for the upcoming week. So that's like my favorite type of weather. I love driving to work in the rain. I love having my window open a little bit while I'm working so I can listen to the rain. So I'm really excited about that. And another thing that I'm really motivated about is a project that I've been working on with one of our smaller teams at work. We've finished that up and we get to present it to our training team. And I think we've put forth a really good effort on it. I think it looks really good. And I think it's going to help meet the needs of what our team is looking for. So I'm just really excited to be a part of that and to work with some other people and be collaborative and create something that I think is going to help our team with the specific problem that we're working on. And then the third thing is this past week, I was able to attend some learning sessions about the software that I use in my job. And my coworker and we both use this software, and one of the sessions really helped us understand a specific functionality that is really going to help us in the future. And so we were just really excited to get to dig into it and play around with it and experiment with it. So that's just something that's really motivating, is seeing that we can use this to improve on what we're doing for the people who are accessing our training.
Nice.
Yeah, for the upcoming week, my two goals are actually they're not work related. I'm just trying to make sure I incorporate exercise back into my routine as well as staying on top of my housekeeping because adding a commute into my routine has made my time to do those things a little bit more limited. And so I've been making a bit of an effort to add exercise and house cleaning back into my routine, but it has been a challenge. So those are the two things that I'm working on for this upcoming week as far as goals. And then from the week before, it was actually my birthday this past week. And so um, I was able to kind of use that on LinkedIn to reach out to more teachers and just, let them know that I'm here to support them and let them know that they can reach out to me. And a few people did reach out to me, which I love because the way that I'm using LinkedIn is really just in hopes that I can give back to other people the way that people supported me on there in my job search. And so that was a win for me, is just being able to reach a few more people and hopefully encourage them as they're trying to make their transition out of teaching.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, happy belated birthday, first of all.
Thank you.
And good luck with the goals for the week ahead. I know there's a lot of pros and cons to working from home. The one thing is I don't miss those like early alarm clock set offs to it's like it's time to get up and work out, Matt. So it's nice to have that freedom for sure. That's one of the certain perks. So reason I reached out to you and you agreed to be on the show, we had discussed your recent transition from being an educator into being a corporate trainer now. So when you were making that transition, was corporate trainer like at the top of your list or like top three? Was that one of the careers that you were like, this is what I want to focus on when I'm starting my transition? How did that come to be the goal for you?
Yeah, actually, it was something that I had been researching for a few years now. A corporate trainer, there's a lot of similar skill sets that parallel with the skill sets I had in teaching. There's some differences too, just because it is the corporate world. But yeah, that was ultimately where I was hoping to end up. There were a couple of other jobs that I was very open to as well. Sales, I was looking at SDR roles, and that sounded really exciting. But ultimately, I was like, what if I get into sales and I really don't like it? Like, I just didn't really know what to expect because it was so different from teaching.
Mhm.
So ultimately, I was hoping to be in a corporate trainer role because I knew that I already had the skill set and the parts of teaching that I loved, the actual, designing teaching and teaching it were things that I would get to do in corporate training. So yeah, that was where I wanted to end up.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned that you kind of use LinkedIn as a resource even still and do things a little bit differently and now try to be that resource for other transitioning teachers. So when you were in the midst of your transition, how much did you rely upon that network? I know it's a pretty tight-knit community. I transitioned out of education like 7 years ago, and I know that even now I still see so many people that are active within that community, even if they've been out for quite some time. So for you, how does that benefit you when you're transitioning, and what do you try to do as a resource now that you've made the transition?
Sure. So I would say LinkedIn was probably my biggest resource of help during my transition. I don't think if I would have tried to figure things out on my own without being there, I would have been very successful because I learned so much. Filling out an application for a teaching job was so much different than, I mean, at the core of it, the application is pretty similar to a teaching application, but the resume part was the big difference. You
Mhm.
really have to have a really airtight resume, and it has to have specific things on it, and it has to be formatted a specific way. And I would not have learned all of those things had it not been for people helping on LinkedIn. I actually made sure to write down a few names of people that I got resources from. Aaron Luber is one of them. I think that's how I pronounce that person's name, but they have a really amazing resume template. And I literally went from having like zero interviews, no correspondence from any employers at all. And then I switched to that resume and it was like instantly I had, I think, 5 employers get a hold of me within like a week's time. So that was part of it. And then Anna Murphy, another person on LinkedIn that I would really suggest people follow, had a post about like quantifying your resume. And that was something that I had never done to my resume before. So I would say those two things basically took me from having 0 correspondence with any employers to, I think in 1 week I had 7 interviews, but it was like 5 different employers that I was interviewing with. So it
Nice.
was definitely a very busy, very exciting time. And I'm really appreciative of having those resources. Those aren't the only 2 people that helped me, but those were the ones that I think kind of helped me go from being very unsuccessful to having a successful transition.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Now you mentioned there's some similarities now in your current role as corporate trainer to when you were an educator. So what are some of those skills that you developed as an educator that you feel really prepared you to kind of step into this new role and made some aspects easier than others?
Sure. So with teaching, a huge part of what we did was the lesson planning piece and just making sure you're designing quality instruction. And that I think has been the biggest transfer over into corporate training. Just making sure to design really quality lessons that are targeted to exactly what you're wanting to teach. So that would be the biggest skill that I think has transferred over. I will say one perk of doing this in the corporate world is you get a lot more time to do that planning and that designing. It's not like in teaching where you just have your plan time and who knows if somebody's going to occupy your plan time or something's going to come up. I know in teaching, I was trying to get ready for the next day at the end of every school day. And now I have a lot more time to prepare things that I'm creating as far as training goes. So the time is the biggest piece that has been a positive.
For sure, for sure. So then the other question I always like to ask anyone who transitioned from education into something new, is there a piece of advice that you received along your journey that you felt was kind of paramount to bring you success, or something that you would pass along to those other educators who are maybe at this point waiting until the end of the school year to try something new, or at this point still just full throttle at it? I'm not going back to the classroom. I'm finding something else. What would you say to anyone that's trying to make that transition?
I think I would say to go into the process with an obnoxious amount of confidence. I know at the beginning, when I started to make that choice of I really want to get out of teaching, I did not have very much confidence. I was like, I had a mindset of who's going to want me? I'm just a teacher. Like, I don't have any other skills, but that is very much not true. Employers do see your value and you have a ton of value to bring into other fields. So when you go into your interviews, be ridiculously confident, even if maybe you don't feel it. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it situation. And just try to keep that positive mindset. It is very hard. It's a very stressful process. I understand all of that. Just try to keep pushing through. Don't let it get you down, and be very, very confident in yourself.
All right, perfect. Well, great advice. Kendall, thank you again so much for jumping on the call this week with us. Appreciate your insight into the field. I think you're the first corporate trainer that we've had that transition from education. So it's really cool to get new perspectives and different job fields that educators can transition into and find success. So I appreciate you sharing your story and what worked for you. I hope everyone watching has a great week ahead, and we will see you not next Monday because of the holiday. So we will see you next Tuesday. And I hate that I just say that, but have a great week and we will talk.
Bye.